Our I can statement is E6. I can write an equation from a word problem. This is day 1 of this concept, and today we'll be focusing on keywords and verbal translations. In your notes, please annotate using the following instructions. So first, highlight keywords that indicate the operation in this column, okay? So in the first section, you're looking for keywords that represent addition. In the second section, keywords that represent subtraction. Third section, multiplication, and the last section, division. So highlight keywords. Then circle the word number in every sentence. All right, these are the words that you should have highlighted. So the keywords that represent addition are plus, add, sum, more than, and increased. The keywords that represent subtraction is minus, subtract, difference of, and less than. The keywords that represent multiplication are times, multiplied by, product of, and just the word of. And then the keywords that represent division is divided by, divided into, and quotient of. All right, I've circled the word number, and the reason that we did that is because in addition to knowing which operation we're using in the sentence, we also want to know what words represent our variable. And in this case, the word number is a key word that represents our variable. Okay, so let's take a look at the first sentence. A number, so that's n, plus, there's our addition, 5. Okay, let's jump down to this one. Okay, 5 more than a number. The keyword than, which we'll see here and here, tells us to switch the order. Okay, and let's take a look at subtraction. If I said, what number is 2 less than 10? 2 less than 10? Well, that number is 8. And if you think about how we got that, we did 10 minus 2. We start at the second number, 10, and then we take away 2, and that accounts for the 2 less than. So that's why it's important to remember that anytime you see the word than, you want to switch the order. Okay, so 11 less than a number, we write as x minus 11. These keywords are going to be important ones to know. Please make sure that you have them memorized because you will need to know those keywords to be able to recognize them when we translate equations. All right, another keyword is. Is compares two expressions, so it's making a comparison statement. And in what we're going to see in this unit, it usually means equals. So when you see this word, see equals in your mind. Here is one exception. We just looked at a previous example. 3 less than n, we would write as n minus 3. However, if we put the keyword is in the mix, if we say 3 is less than n, we are combining is with less than to make a comparison statement. So we write that comparison using the less than symbol. 3 is less than n. This is an example of an inequality, and we'll deal with inequalities in our next unit, so keep that in mind. But just know that that's the difference. In this case, there's no is, so that's why we write it as n minus 3. In the other case where there is an is less than, we write it as the inequality symbol. But anywhere else you see the word is, I want you to think equals. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to use those keywords and phrases that we just looked at, and we're going to use that to translate this word sentence or verbal sentence into a number sentence or equation. So we're going to take this and we're going to translate it as an equation. Now, any of you that have studied foreign languages, what you do when you translate is you look for a word that has the same meaning in the given language. So if you have a word in Spanish, you want to translate it to the word with the same meaning in English. Well, here we're going to take the words in our English sentence and we're going to translate it to the symbols in an equation. Okay, so I've got 4. I've got a number, n, so that's going to be my variable, and I've got negative 15. Okay, so those are the 4 key pieces of information that we're given in terms of the numbers. Then we want to take a look at the words that represent operations. Okay, so less than. Well, less is a keyword for subtraction. Okay? But than is a keyword that tells us to switch the order. So I'm going to write n minus 4. That represents 4 less than the number n. Then my keyword is means equal. So I'm going to write an equal sign. And then I just have negative 15. So the equation that represents this sentence is n minus 4 equals negative 15. Let's take a look at number 2, another example. Now, another strategy that some students like to use is look for the word is first and then write your equal sign. So here's is, and I'm going to write equal sign. Okay? And then just to the left, the only thing that's there is the number 3, so we can go ahead and take care of that. So we've got our 3 written down there. Then we want to look for our operation. We have more than. The keyword plus, or the keyword more, represents addition. And the word than tells us to switch our order. So I'm going to write the number C first, and then I'm going to write 10 second. So the equation that represents this verbal sentence is C plus 10 equals 3. All right, I want you to try number 3 on your own. I'll give you a minute and then pause or start the video up when you're ready to check your answer. All right, so the product of is a keyword that represents multiplication. It is the product of 15 and a number. Now, it doesn't tell us to use a number n or a number c, so you can use any variable that you would like, okay? So in this case, I'm just going to use x. Then we have the keyword is, which represents equals, and then I have negative 75. So the product of 15 and a number is negative 75, can be written as the equation 15 times x equals negative 75. It's totally fine if you want to write multiplication like this, or if you use the x symbol for multiplication, then you'd want to use a different variable in this case. So you could have done 15 times n equals negative 75. The last example, the x, is kind of confusing though if the variable you're supposed to use is x, so that's why I prefer the first 2. Another thing to keep in mind is when you're choosing variables, there are some that you might want to consider avoiding. For example, the letter O can be easily confused with the number 0. Lowercase t can be easily confused with a plus. As we mentioned before, X can be easily confused with times. S can be confused with 5 because they're similar, and especially if you're writing quickly, it can be kind of hard to tell the difference. Lowercase l can look like the number 1. So those are just a few examples of variables that you might want to consider avoiding, or at the very least writing very carefully if you do have to use them. So keep that in mind. All right, I want you to try 4 and 5 on your own. Remember, if you're having trouble with those keywords, look back at the table that we have in our notes or at the beginning of the video, and then come back and try these ones on your own. All right, I hope you're ready to check your answers. If not, pause the video now. All right, number 4, the quotient of a number and -3 is 11. We can translate as n divided by -3 equals 11 because quotient represents division. Number 5, the sum of a number and 2 is equal to 8. Sum is a keyword that represents addition, so we write this as n plus 2 equals 8. Now, in these two examples, I used n as my variable. Since it didn't specify, you could have used any letter. So if you have x divided by 3 for the first example, that's totally fine. Also remember that you could have also written division as n over -3 equals 11. So either way is fine. If you have any questions, please make sure to let me know. Watch the video as many times as you need to, and please make an effort to memorize those keywords that were listed in the table at the beginning of the video. You might want to consider making flashcards so you can quiz yourself, but those keywords are essential to being able to translate a sentence into an equation. Thanks for watching.